Hey everyone, I'm Joe and today I'm going to be talking about everything I read in the month of August, or in other words, my reading wrap-up. August was a really good month overall. I read a total of 9 books. 7 of them were full-length novels. There was 1 graphic novel and 1 short story. And without further delay, I'll get straight on to talking about the books, otherwise this video is going to be extremely long. The first book that I read was Mona Lisa Overdrive by William Gibson. This is the 3rd book in the Sprawl trilogy, which is a science fiction trilogy, starting off with Neuromancer, then you have Count Zero, and then it finishes off with this. Both Count Zero and Mona Lisa are very loose sequels to Neuromancer. They are set in the same world, and the events from Neuromancer have triggered certain other events in Count Zero, and that is then sort of followed on with this, but it's only very loose and a very loose trilogy overall. I did enjoy the book, and indeed the world is still very good, but it can't quite compare to Neuromancer, and it just felt pretty average overall, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Good but not phenomenal, basically. The second book that I read was The Amber Spyglass by Philip Pullman. This is the 3rd book in the His Dark Materials trilogy, which is a fantasy trilogy which begins with the Golden Compass and then is continued with the Subtle Knife. This is a trilogy set in a world where everybody has a spirit animal of sorts, and they are very much linked to this animal, and there are 2 characters, Lyra and Will, who end up going on this quite large adventure across multiple worlds, some of which their spirit animals are very much in the way and at great risk. And overall, I haven't particularly enjoyed this trilogy, frankly. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, which is the same as the second book, and the first book I gave 4 out of 5 stars to. It's good and it is well written, but I felt it was quite negative, and it's quite a sort of gloomy read in a lot of places, and I felt I had to sort of actively force myself to read it and finish the book. And obviously it's 3rd in a trilogy, so I really did want to just finish it regardless. The 3rd book that I read was Warship Down by Richard Adams. This was the fantasy book for my SF reading project. I had planned to read this in July, but it got delayed, as these things happen, and it is a classic children's fantasy tale about a group of rabbits who leave their warren to go to the Watership Down of the title and find a new warren where they can have hopefully a better life. I've always thought this sounded a kind of a silly tale, and I always assumed it would be well written but kind of pointless in a way, and it would be quite childish, frankly. But I'm happy to say I was very much wrong, because I loved this book really badly. It was incredibly well written. The characters were very well developed, which actually surprised me, because I thought being rabbits they would be just odd and a bit strange overall, but that's not actually the case. And the situations that they get in are also really believable and really interesting, and the actual rabbit culture is also developed in a really interesting way, which I honestly did not expect. And I gave this 5 out of 5 stars and Goodreads, and frankly I loved this book and would recommend it to basically everybody. The 4th book that I read was also read for part of my SF reading project, and that was Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. This is a science fiction psychological book about a guy not called Algernon, that's actually a mouse, but his name is Charlie. He's classed as retarded. This is the 60s that we're talking about here, and he's given the opportunity to undergo a experimental procedure which will essentially unlock the potential of his mind and hopefully make him far more intelligent than he is. He only has a IQ of 68, and he can read very slightly and write, but he's very bad. And indeed that is also the writing style at the start of the book. It's very crude, no punctuation, no capital letters. the procedure works slowly, and then the writing of the book is improving as his mental abilities are improving, and obviously language skills are much better. I loved this book overall. I thought the development of his intellectual ability versus his emotional ability to be fascinating, because his intellectual side is developing at a really high rate and his emotional side is not really developing that well. He's still very childlike and naive and simplistic, and this creates a massive conflict, and one that I thought was really interesting, and I'm still trying to figure out parts of it even now. And I gave this 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and I'd recommend this to everybody as well. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. It really draws you in, and it really gets you quite emotional and tied to Charlie. I mean, there are points in this that I actually got angry because of the way other characters treat him. Of course, because of his intelligence, he is not aware that sometimes they are insulting him and he thinks they are just joking with him, which is horrible to read about, but it really makes you get invested into the book and the character. The 5th book that I read was The Dragon Reborn by Robert Jordan. This is the 3rd book in the Wheel of Time series, of which there are 14 in total. This is an epic high fantasy series which Jordan started, and Brandon Sanderson had to finish the final 3 due to Jordan's unfortunate death. With this series, people often refer to Tolkien and obviously Middle Earth for a good reason, because it does have certain similarities to that. I really like these books so far. I've given this book 4 or 5 stars, and the previous 2 I've also given 4 or 5 stars too. I'm not going to talk about the plot because frankly there's too much in it, and obviously it would be spoilers for the previous books, but it's a kind of a traditional fantasy in some ways. There is a great evil in the world and a group of characters, and one character in particular is trying to get rid of it, but it's written really in depth, and the world is frankly massive and really detailed. If you like fantasy and high fantasy in particular, then you may well like this, because I certainly have liked it. The 6th book that I read was Descender #1 by Jeff Lemire. This is a comic or graphic novel with science fiction overtones. This was suggested to me by Brianna over from Stories from the Shelf, who is a fellow booktuber, and I had no preconceived notions of what this could be because I'd never heard of it before, and I actually really enjoyed this. It was only very short, it being a 30-page-ish comic, and I read it for free legally online, and I'll post the link to that in the description box below. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. It was just really fun and had some interesting ideas, so I may well try to see if I can get hold of the following parts as well. The 7th book that I read was Caliban's War by James S.A. Curry. James S.A. Curry is the pseudonym of 2 people. That is Daniel Abraham, who is a fantasy author, and Ty Franks, who is the main editor for George R.R. Martin. This is the 2nd book in the Expanse series, which is a science fiction series which will be 9 books long eventually. There are currently 5 of them out, and I loved this book. It is a grand opera style science fiction, and it really does live up to that grand space opera ideal, because there are a large selection of characters, most of them are developed well, a large amount of locations on planets, moons, spaceships and so forth, and a large and quite complicated plot, and obviously that the plot will be developed more as the books go on. And I just thought this was brilliantly well written. It doesn't let up the pace ever, it's just action packed. There are some quiet moments where you have interesting scenes between some of the characters, but that just highlights the action and I just love this book really badly. It's one of the most fun and fast-paced books I've read in quite a long time. The 8th book is Midnight Hour by Mary Robinette Kowal. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is a fantasy short story that I read for free online through a website which I will link in the description box below, of course. And this is a fantasy story with a fairy tale overtones to it. The title refers to the fact that the king is only lucid and essentially himself for 1 hour from midnight until 1 AM, and he has to make all his decisions at that time. I can't say more because it's so short. I'll probably end up giving away spoilers, but the writing and the ideas were really, really good. I really didn't know what to expect with this because it was so short, but it was just frankly brilliant. The king and the queen and a few of the other characters were developed very quickly but really well, which I was actually impressed by, and I will definitely be looking into more books by Kowal at some future point. The 9th and final book that I read was We Can Remember It For You Wholesale by Philip K. Dick. This is a science fiction short story collection. As you know, I am a big fan of Philip K. Dick. There are 25 short stories in this book in total, with a massive and really varied range of subjects: psychology, sociology, physics, all sorts of things are covered in this, with Dick's usual weird and really interesting style. I loved this book really badly. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I read 1 story or 2 stories each day roughly throughout the month, and I did comment on them using the update status feature of Goodreads. So if you'd like to know more about each individual story, then go and check out the comments and the status updates for this on my Goodreads. Some of them were frankly amazing, really were, and the title story as well, We Can Remember It For You Wholesale, is what the Total Recall film with Arnold Schwarzenegger is based on. So I'm really glad that I finally know the ideas behind the film, which is sort of silly but really, really good. Okay, so that's it for the books I've read in August. A few fairly average books and quite a few absolutely brilliant books. If you'd like to talk about any of these books with me, then please leave a comment below and I'll get back to you and we can have a really interesting conversation, hopefully. And with that said, that's pretty much it for this video. So thank you for watching and I'll see you another day. Bye for now.